I thank God that we have an understanding of faith, and we have an understanding of what the love of God is, because in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 it says there are going to be three things. If everything else passes away, three things will remain: faith, hope, and love. So we know 1 Corinthians chapter 13 is talking about the love of God, and it's talking about if you don't have love, you can speak in tongues of angels, tongues of men, you can prophesy, you can do many things, but the most important thing is that we love. And then at the end of that chapter, the final verse says, but these three things will remain: faith, hope, and love. So we know that love is the foundation of everything. God is love. Now God is love, and God, His love, speaks everything into being. His love has created everything for us that we will ever need. There is nothing that we will ever need that God hasn't yet already created. That is amazing to think about that. Sometimes we get lost in how are we going to get the money? How are we going to get the land? How are we going to get the car? How are we going to get the job? How are we going to get all that? We get so lost in all of that stuff that we actually think, wait a minute, God's created everything we're ever going to need. So if we just live in Him and move in Him and have our being in Him, then all the stuff that we are ever going to have to need is already made for us. The connector that we need is faith. We have to trust Him. And so, as we were saying in our last session together, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Just because I can't see it doesn't mean that I can't believe for it, or I can't receive it as though it already exists. And I talked to you about the ice cream truck. Well, today I want to just use a slightly different example to you, and it's an example that's found in the book of Acts. It's quite a marvelous example where Peter is actually taken into custody and into prison, and I mean he is being heavily guarded. He's in prison. There's prison gates, and there's all these things that are keeping him imprisoned. And yet there was a group of people, the church, that were having a prayer meeting, and they were praying for Peter. And what happens is an angel comes walking into the prison, and this angel basically opens up the prison doors, walks Peter out of the prison, and when he gets out of the prison, he realizes that he wasn't having a dream or a vision. He realizes actually that he's free. And he goes and he knocks on the door, and the lady opens the door, and she sees Peter, and she shuts the door again because she thought she was seeing a vision. Why am I telling you that story? Because when we tap into the continuous perfect state of being, and we have faith in what we are praying for, things that we hope for, the substance is something that we can't yet see, but it can materialize even though it doesn't seem possible. This is a real world example that happened in the real New Testament church. It seems almost impossible that anybody can escape a prison in those days, and people can just get out of jail and just walk down the street. And Peter didn't hide himself. He went back and started preaching in the square and in the synagogue, because he was making a point that Jesus is the one that actually created his freedom. This is powerful, because when you pray and you say, Lord, we have someone that's in captivity, and we're praying your perfect will be done here, and we need you to intervene on Peter's behalf. He answers, he sends angels in, he takes care of the whole thing, and And you might even begin to see the answer to your prayer, even though you didn't think God could answer it that quickly. I believe that as we move into this understanding of our life in a continuous, perfect being, and this continuous state of perfection that we live in together with God, that there are things that we couldn't have imagined or dreamed or thought about might happen for us, that God can suddenly release us from and can suddenly do things for us. Let's believe God for some amazing supernatural suddenlies.